The next question is, what kind of a united front did the Comintern impress on the CPC? The opposition tried again and again to refer to a single telegram that had been sent by the Comintern in October 26, which read like this: until Shanghai is captured, the agrarian movement should not be intensified. This was a wrong telegram. It should not have been sent. This telegram, that this was wrong, was admitted by Stalin and by the Comintern. And what is more, within 5 weeks of it being sent, it had been cancelled. And two facts are important about this telegram. First, it was the Communist International and Stalin who were responsible for cancelling this. Secondly, the first time that the opposition ever raised the matter of this telegram was 9 months after the telegram had actually been cancelled, and they of course raised it in the light of the coup by Chiang Kai-shek on April the 12th, 1927. This telegram was an isolated, episodic affair, completely uncharacteristic of the line represented by the Communist International and impressed upon the CPC. The line of Comintern is contained in a number of well-known documents which are conveniently ignored by the Trotskyites and by other falsifiers of history. In these, the Comintern calls upon the CPC to consolidate its alliance with the peasantry, to put forward a radical agrarian program, and identify itself with the agrarian revolution. It's constantly said that unless you actually press ahead with the agrarian revolution, unless and until you isolate the right wing of the KMT, unless and until you bring new forces, new leaders from the peasantry as well as working class with fresh blood who can speak boldly and stiffen the backs of the old KMT people, so as to either make them bold enough to fight for the revolution or resign or get rid of them, the revolution will be in peril. I'm deliberately leaving aside a number of quotations because I don't want this presentation to become inordinately wrong. All these documents that I have not cited here because there is no time were actually known to the opposition, but it carefully avoided mentioning them. As Stalin said, why does it, that is the opposition, say nothing about these documents? Because its aim is to raise a squabble and not to bring out the truth. Stalin went on to refer to the February-March 1926 sixth plenum of the Communist International, at which a unanimous resolution was passed and which gave approximately the same estimate of the first stage of the Chinese Revolution, the Canton period, as given by the Comintern, which the opposition repudiated a year later. They voted for that resolution. Nobody voted against it, not even Trotsky. Zinoviev actually voted for it. And yet a year later, after the defeat of the Chinese Revolution, after the desertion of Chiang Kai-shek to the side of counter-revolution, they raised it for the first time and saying that resolution was wrong. In the second stage of the Chinese Revolution, that's the Wuhan period, the opposition was to assert that the Comintern had failed to warn the CPC of the possible desertion of the left wing of the KMT to the side of counter-revolution. This assertion is refuted by two documents, both of May 1927, in which the Comintern impressed upon the CPC the need to develop the agrarian revolution systematically, to organize 8 or 10 divisions of revolutionary peasants and workers with absolutely reliable officers, to organize and intensify the disintegrating activities in the rear and in Chiang Kai-shek's units, to draw in new peasant and working class leaders into the CC of the KMT in order to stiffen the backs of some old leaders or affect their removal. And then there's a quotation supporting what I have just said. So if you want to sum up the errors of the opposition, this is how they stand, and these are in the words of Stalin. At this stage, go on to say, it would be extremely useful to sum up the errors of the Trotskyist opposition in the question of the Chinese Revolution in the following words of J.B. Stalin. The chief mistakes of the opposition are: 1. The opposition does not understand the character and prospects of the Chinese Revolution. 2. opposition sees no difference between revolution in China and the revolution in Russia, between revolution in colonial countries and revolution in oppressed countries. 3. The opposition is departing from Leninist tactics on the question of attitude to the national bourgeoisie in colonial countries at the first stage of the revolution. 4. The opposition does not understand the question of the communist participation in the KMT. 5. The opposition is violating the principles of Leninist tactics on the question of relations between the vanguard, that's the party, and the rearguard, the vast masses of working people. 6. The opposition is departing from the resolutions of the 6th and 7th plenums of the Executive Committee of the Communist International. Stalin goes on to conclude, the opposition noisily brags about its policy on the Chinese question and asserts if that policy had been adopted, the situation in China today, that is in August 1927, would be better than it is. It scarcely needs proof that considering the gross mistakes committed by the opposition, the Chinese Communist Party would have landed in a complete impasse had it adopted the anti-Leninist and adventurous policy of the opposition. The fact that the Communist Party of China has in a short period grown from a small group of 5,000 or 6,000 into a mass party of 60,000 members, the fact that the CPC has succeeded in organizing nearly 3 million proletarians and trade unions during this period, the fact that the CPC has succeeded in rousing many millions of peasantry from their torpor and in drawing tens of millions of peasants into the revolutionary peasant organizations, the fact that the CPC has succeeded during this period in winning over whole regiments and divisions of the national troops, the fact that the CPC has succeeded during this period in converting the idea of hegemony of the proletariat from an aspiration into a reality, the fact that the CPC has succeeded in a short period in achieving all these gains is due, among other things, to having followed the path outlined by Lenin, the path indicated by the Comintern. Needless to say, if the policy of the opposition, with its mistakes and anti-Leninist line on questions of colonial revolution, had been followed, these gains of the Chinese Revolution would either not have been achieved at all or would have been extremely insignificant. Only ultra-left renegades and adventurers can doubt this. The Chinese themselves have admitted, and Stalin pointed that out too, that the defeats of 1927 were in no small part due to the opportunism of the leadership in the Chinese Communist Party. At that time, the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party was Chen Tu-Siu. And as a result of these defeats, of course, Chen was much criticized, and he was removed subsequently. In fact, the CPC really does not quite get the correct leadership until Mao Zedong in the mid-30s is elected as the leader of the Communist Party of China. And soon after the defeats of 1927, Chen Tu-Siu was made an unsuccessful attempt, believe it or not, to launch a Trotskyist movement in China, and on December the 10th, 1929, made a statement that it was necessary to work undeviatingly, this is a quotation from him, undeviatingly on the side of the international opposition led by Comrade Trotsky.